daring move once again was made by NATO after they activated their Eastern Defense Plan due to the nuclear-capable hypersonic missile test of Belarus together with Russia. So the question now is, are we heading toward the closest possibility of World War III? Before we dive in, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit like and subscribe button. It means a lot to us small creators. Thank you so much. NATO has just activated its Eastern Defense Plan after Belarus tested a nuclear-capable hypersonic missile during military drills with Russia. At the same time, Belarus also practiced the deployment of Russia's Orishnik missile system, a weapon that can travel several times faster than normal ballistic missiles and can carry nuclear warheads. According to NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte yesterday, Russia's hypersonic missile threat erases any sense of security for Western NATO members. The Zapad 2025 exercises were held from September 12 to 16 at 41 sites in Belarus and Russia's Kaliningrad region. But what makes these drills different compared to normal military exercises? Belarus did not only practice conventional warfare, they also simulated the launch of nuclear weapons using the Orishnik, a system that Russia expects to be fully operational in Belarus before the end of this year. Russian tactical nuclear weapons have been stationed in Belarus since 2023, and now Belarus is being trained on how to use them. The Orishnik changes everything about regional security because it can reach any NATO capital within minutes. Warsaw is only 2,000 miles from Belarus and Berlin is just 400 miles away. These are no longer theoretical capabilities. Belarus showed that they can actually deploy and launch these weapons during drills. Putin personally oversaw the conclusion of the exercises which, according to the Institute for the Study of War, signals Moscow's strategic priority for this deployment. Particularly concerned are NATO's eastern members such as Poland, Latvia, and Lithuania, who said that Russian nuclear weapons in Belarus bring a huge increase in security tensions. Their governments also mentioned that these weapons reduce NATO defense's response time. The timing is also crucial because this is the first Z-Pod exercise since Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022. Belarus moved the drills inward from its western borders. According to Major General Pavel Moravia, Chief of General Staff of Belarus, this supposedly showed openness and tolerance, but NATO is not convinced. Secretary General Rutte said the eastern flank, especially countries like Estonia and Lithuania, remain on the front line of threats. He emphasized that NATO must take these exercises very seriously. That's why NATO activated its new Eastern Defense Plan and strengthened air defenses in Poland, the Baltic states and other frontline nations. But here's the reality. Russia is using Belarus to push nuclear forces right to NATO's doorstep. The deployment of the Orishnik brings hypersonic nuclear weapons more than 1,000 miles closer to Western Europe. Belarusian Security Council Secretary Ali Alexander Valfevic tried to present the drills as defensive, even comparing them to NATO maneuvers, saying training areas were moved inward to reduce tensions. But the numbers tell a different story. The exercises involved 100,000 personnel, deployed 10,000 weapon systems, with more than 300 aircraft and several naval vessels participating. This is not just a simple training exercise. It's a demonstration of combined nuclear and conventional readiness. The Orishnik is a new level of threat, flying at speeds between Mach 10 and Mach 12. This means current missile defense systems cannot properly intercept weapons this fast. Russia first used the Orishnik operationally in November of last year against Ukrainian defense facilities, a strike that proved the weapon works, and now it is permanently stationed on Belarusian territory. European Parliament reports also confirm this is not the only concern. It is documented that Iranian force operatives are using Belarusian passports and that Iranian drone facilities are operating on Venezuelan soil with Russian support. The pattern is clear. Russia is building nuclear-capable forward positions around NATO territory. Belarus requested the Orishnik deployment citing threats from Poland, Lithuania, and Germany. Moscow quickly approved. This deepens military integration between Russia and Belarus, making Belarus essentially Russia's nuclear platform against NATO. The risk is extremely high. Even a single miscalculation in a crisis could trigger nuclear escalation, with NATO capitals having warning times measured in single-digit minutes. NATO's response shows they understand the threat, but activating defense plans is a different matter from actually intercepting hypersonic nuclear weapons at close range. Russia insists it is not threatening anyone with these deployments, and Belarus claims the exercises were purely defensive, but in reality they practiced nuclear launch procedures, deployed weapons capable of reaching Berlin in minutes, and moved these capabilities to NATO's very border. Fundamentally, the security landscape in Eastern Europe has been altered, and NATO is rushing to adjust before it's too late. Meanwhile, Egypt has just deployed advanced Chinese air defense systems on its border near Gaza. This was done after Israeli forces struck targets near the Egyptian border. According to Middle East Monitor, Egypt deployed the HQ-9B missile system in Sinai, the first deployment of Chinese military hardware this close to Israeli territory. These systems can track and shoot down aircraft at a 200 kilometers range and 27 kilometers altitude, enough to cover Israeli airspace from Egyptian soil. But why would Egypt risk violating its peace treaty with Israel? The HQ-9B is not just any missile system. It uses active electronically scanned array technology capable of tracking multiple targets simultaneously while resisting electronic jamming. Each launcher carries 8 missiles that can target fighter jets, cruise missiles, and ballistic missiles. Egypt has also mobilized 40,000 troops in the Sinai over the past 6 months, including tanks and armored vehicles, technically violating the 1979 Camp David Accords. According to Egyptian Defense Minister Abdelmajid Saka, if anyone dares disturb or violate Egypt's borders, the world will be surprised by Egypt's capabilities and by things it has not yet revealed. This comes as Israel's ongoing operations in Gaza have already killed over 4,000 Palestinians. Egypt fears this could cause mass displacement of refugees into Sinai, potentially destabilizing the entire region. According to Egyptian Information Service head Dr. Rashwan, even though Israel has not yet crossed Egypt's red line, the severe and barbaric pressure on Gaza residents could push the conflict southward. Israeli analysts say this deployment by Egypt violates the peace treaty and complicates their military planning. For 45 years, they have been used to Egypt's forces in Sinai being limited, but Egypt frames it differently. Officials say the HQ-9B is a vital part of border defense against any foreign power threatening their sovereignty. The timing signals deeper tensions. Israel seized the Gaza border strip in May last year without consulting Egypt. Reports say communication between Egyptian and Israeli military commanders has also stopped. The involvement of China adds a new dimension. Following joint Egyptian-Chinese military exercises called Civilization Eagle 2025, the HQ-9B was deployed. This shows Egypt moving away from exclusive reliance on American military equipment. While Russia's S-400 system has similar capabilities, Egypt chose Chinese technology, sending a message about Cairo's strategic independence from both Washington and Moscow. Because of the missile's long range, there are overlapping coverage zones with Israeli air defenses. Any Israeli aircraft approaching Sinai will now face Egyptian missiles before reaching their targets. Egypt also controls the Rafah crossing, the only exit point from Gaza not held by Israel. With advanced air defense protecting this border, Israel cannot easily threaten Egypt's sovereignty while operating in Gaza. Former Israeli military officials warn of risks of accidental engagement since communication channels are cut. A misidentification of aircraft could trigger a wider conflict between the two nations. Currently, Egypt and Israel have billions of dollars in annual trade. A war would devastate both economies, already struggling from regional conflicts. The deployment also protects Egyptian forces from spillover violence. Hamas rockets intended for Israel have previously struck Egyptian territory and killed Egyptian soldiers. The US has not yet commented, but Egypt receives over $1 billion in annual US military aid funding that could be jeopardized by its purchase of Chinese weapons. Satellite imagery confirms the HQ-9B systems arrived in Egypt just 72 hours ago. The speed of deployment shows this was planned months in advance by Cairo. According to Egyptian generals, their main mission in Sinai is to prevent Israel from pushing Palestinian refugees into their territory. They said they will not allow Egypt to become a dumping ground. More than 20,000 Egyptian businesses operate in the border areas and would collapse if conflict erupts. Hundreds of thousands of workers depend on regional stability, now increasingly fragile. Egypt has already cut diplomatic coordination with Israel on Gaza operations, leaving both sides unaware of each other's red lines. The situation is further complicated by the presence of Chinese military advisors training Egyptian crews. If Israeli strikes hit these systems, Chinese personnel could be caught in the crossfire, internationalizing the conflict. Egypt's military doctrine has shifted from cooperation to deterrence at the Israeli border. And after decades of peace, both armies are now preparing for a possible confrontation.